So all of the defences look that way, not at France, that's over there. So it's all a bit odd, but if you take away one thing, that's the one you need to take away, because that helps explain everything else that you're looking at. Yeah? Okay, so this is one of the entrances into the Western Heights defences. The Western Heights defences are far more extensive than those at the castle. So if you imagine Dover Castle, you can see Dover Castle because it's a medieval castle, so it sticks up rather than an artillery fort that is hidden. So it's I don't know, 1.5 times twice the size of Dover Castle. So it's a really big fortification. And it's an artillery fortification. So it's not desperately visible from the town or from France or from inland. And there are about 3.5 miles of ditches that protect it. So it's a military town with a church, a school, all of the things you'd expect in a community. The garrison for the Heights will depend on what's going on, but generally you're looking at probably two battalions up here, so a battalion, I don't know, about 750 people, something like that, and then you've got the artillery people and the engineers and all this sort of thing. So you're looking at a fairly substantial garrison up here at any one time. So through those ditches that surround it, there are two main entrances that were constructed. One of them is this one, which has remained broadly intact. The other one was up by St Martin's Battery, and that's completely gone, sadly. So we'll look at what we've got. We are at the inner face of it, not the outer face. It's jolly decorative. I mean, that brickwork is just amazing. Those are all rubbed bricks. So to get the joints as narrow as you can, what they do is they rub the bricks down so that they're not quite square. So that actually they fit exactly in their places. So it's just beautiful. And if there's social historians amongst us, I always wonder, because the two building periods on the Heights, the two big building periods on the Heights, followed the end of two of the big social revolutions in Britain, the building of the canals and the building of the railways. So you've got the Napoleonic Wars period, the emergence of building of fortifications across southern England, because you can actually see the French army camped in its invasion tents on the coast around the land. So it was a real emergency. And then I suppose the next one could be described more of a panic than an emergency. The third Napoleon declared himself emperor in France, even though we'd actually been on his side during the Crimean War. We were very worried about the rearming of France, the changes to the channel ports and all of that sort of thing. So again, we had an emergency building of fortifications across southern England. And to be fair, it was needed, because the changes between 1815 and 1859, when the Royal Commission was put in place, were quite substantial. You're looking at the doubling of ranges of artillery, the introduction of rifling into weapons, and the introduction of explosive shell. So you could fire further, you could hit the thing more accurately, and you could do a damn sight more damage when you do. So it needed to happen. And the French were doing exactly the same, because they've been through the same shock of the inefficiencies of the Crimean War. So they were up arming and up gunning, but we viewed their changes as being in some way a threat, whereas we sort of expected that they didn't view our changes as being a threat. It's an odd one, but that's how it was viewed. And it was described later as being Palmerston's follies, but it was really needed, because we've not spent any money on fortifications and defence for quite some time, so we were well out of date. So that's sort of a bit of a summary. In essence, we've got two big periods of building on the Heights. We've got the Napoleonic Wars period and the third Napoleon. So for the sake of discussion, we'll say the first Napoleonic period, the second Napoleonic period. It doesn't really cover it properly, and it's really shorthand for all sorts of things that I should be talking about in the sidelines, but for brevity we'll stick with that. Okay, right. We'll go inside and I'll talk a bit inside while your eyes adjust to the darkness, because it isn't as bright as it is out here. Whilst we have got lights in there, it's always a bit easier if you've got a bit of your eyes have sorted themselves out. So come in, let's have a look.
Thank you. Wow.
We're built really in 3 phases. I've missed one out. The first phase was the phase during the American War of Independence, when field fortifications were built on the heights. So a series of field fortifications along this hill constructed, with artillery towers at their centre. Those were swept away during the Napoleonic Wars by new fortifications, although there are the vestiges of the V-cut ditch, for example, between here and the Rock Redoubt, which is probably part of that original arrangement, but no work has been done to actually investigate that archaeologically. So we're just looking at maps. So I won't talk about the dates of the wars, because those aren't actually relevant to the building periods. The building periods for this thing that we're standing in are roughly 1803 to 1816, when there was just a ditch here, 30 foot across, 30 foot deep roughly, with a simple bridge across it. Around it were all of the building works for building the heights. So you have lime sheds, for example, for putting together the lime mortar and all of this sort of thing. Water tanks for helping to slake it and to make things. Brick fields, works yards, all of that sort of thing. Those were all on this side of the hill, close to the town. So that's all the first building, the building of the heights. And then everybody went away because there was no money, because we were at peace, so peace didn't hit us. And then we went into the period, and it's complicated. And we'll use 1853 through to 1867 or thereabouts. Strictly speaking, we ought to be saying after the 1858 barrack accommodation stuff, the health stuff after the Crimean War, and the 1859 Royal Commission fortifications. That's when it really kicked off. But actually on the heights, because we were so close to France, there were smaller interventions to improve the fortifications in smaller ways. But to all intents and purposes, we're looking at 1803 to 1816 and 1853 to 1867 for the works on the heights. Does that sort it out? Yeah. Good. No. I like precision as well, but it's really difficult without a sort of a PowerPoint or something to say, right, that bit was built there, that bit was there. But broadly, that'll do. Okay, our eyes should have adjusted now. The lit bit over there we're looking at later, so we'll come back to that. And we'll head down this tunnel. This tunnel is a sort of S shape. It's a road tunnel, as you can see. The surface underfoot is dreadful. That's down to the vandals, I'm afraid. We stripped this out. It must be 7 years ago, something like that. We did the first trip through here, and we took a lot of rubble out of here, lots of rubbish, and came across this marvellous floor, which is made up of wooden blocks. Wooden blocks were a common road surface in the Victorian period, relatively common road surface. But in tunnels like this, they are essentially because the metal shod wheels of the carts, they make a hell of a racket. But you get them on public roads as well. I've seen receipts for road surfaces outside Dover Town Hall, for example, for just this sort of surface. So they're They're probably pitch pine. I'm pretty sure they're pine, but my pine recognition is poor, I have to say. But I think they're pitch pine square blocks. Once we stripped out all the stuff, I'm afraid vandals came in and lifted the floor, or parts of the floor, put in their log burners. So it's not kids, I'm afraid. It really isn't. There you go. Yes, I have other epithets that I could use, but that will do for the moment.
I'll be polite as well.
Sorry?
I'll be polite as well.
Right, we're going to head down to the end. Do look as you go, though. As we pass the doorway that's halfway down to the right, there's a wonderful piece of brickwork that makes a shaft go up. That's an air shaft and a lighting shaft. The lighting in here generally was provided by those recesses. There are two recesses, one there, on the right. Looks as though it's got two bars in it. They're not bars, those are actually gas pipes. It would have had a lantern in it originally, and gas pipes would have been added. Brilliant, thank you so much. Man with a decent torch right there. Thank you very much. Okay, well, we'll head down to the end, and then we'll talk about the sort of sharp end of it. As I say, do ask as we go along, because it's so much easier to ask questions on the fly and good fly. These weird things across here are pneumatic traffic lights. This is sort of a sharp end. This is the stuff
Oh wow.
This is actually facing the river that's facing inland, so it seems to be a lot more complex than the entrance that faces the other way towards the sea. And again, that's sort of counterintuitive. Sorry. So what we've got here, do be careful. This isn't fastened in. Don't be getting too close to those doors, which are very delicate. I know they don't look delicate, but they are. They're sort of hanging on those hinges, and that's why we put those wooden blocks under them to stop the hinges taking too much pressure from the weight of the doors. But that's a sally port. We'll talk about that in a moment. We'll talk about the bridge first. We'll start with what it sort of looks like. It looks like a bridge. Strictly speaking, it's a turning bridge because it turns across a pivot that's halfway through it. Yeah?
Oh my God, that's high.
In that pit there is the rest of the bridge. Now, those are counterweights. And what happens there is those you pull those up, you lift those, and then it creates a level floor. So you've got a series of beams there, but when those weights are actually pulled up into place, you've got a solid floor. Does that make some sort of sense? Yeah? And that's a really effective way of fortifying something, because if you just knock the gear out, then the weight of the counterweights closes the gap. There's no trying to lift it with pulleys or anything, it's just done by gravity. So the pulley system actually opens it rather than closes it, which is a much more satisfactory way of doing it to prevent an opening. And then if that's not good enough, what you've got is these sliding doors that pull across to block this entrance. And they are enormous. I don't know how many people you need to shift these, but a fair few, I think. We think that these rings relate to the closing of the doors. So we think what you've got is, you've got that door being closed by this ring. So you attach a rope to over there, and you get a few blokes on this ring here pulling on the rope. But don't quote me on that. We can't find a mechanism for doing it. That's why we've come to that conclusion. If there's anybody here who knows something and I'm getting something wrong, please tell me, because it's about communication. Don't be shy. If you know something and I'm getting it wrong, for goodness sake, say it. Because it's always nice to learn something. It was really nice yesterday. There was a chap who used to drive his car through this tunnel, and it was really lovely talking to him. He said that if you look as we're going back, there's all sorts of marks on the walls. And he said that you could always tell the buses that came to the Heights because they had scratches down the sides. I thought it was a wonderful thing, and a piece of information I will pass on to everybody now, and probably you will as well. So it's a two-way street. Yeah. So this bridge goes out to meet a fixed bridge. The thing that fixed bridge is quite a late one. It's 1887 or thereabouts, and it connects to an island now on the wrong side of the thing. At the back there should be somewhere. Yep. No, has it? Someone nicked it.
Yeah, so early here.
Not the one I wanted. There was a plan. No, okay. Someone's hit my big white one. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one we need. Thank you very much. Right, all that. Okay, so we have walked down this tunnel here. Yeah, to this point here. So we stood by this bridge, and that's the bridge we're looking at. We're looking across at this island. It's called the Tenai, and that protects us against fire from here. So the enemies come to here. They've mounted their guns here, and they're trying to fire at this bridge, but they can't because this lump is in the way. Does that make sense? Yeah. This lump also allows us to deploy our musketry men along a banquette here, a fire step that runs along here to actually fire at the people who've gathered over here. And then when it gets too hairy, they can go down these steps here and in through the sally port, which is behind me, so they can get back into the fort. Yeah. Okay. Right. That's sorted, so people know what we're looking at. So that's quite a sophisticated defensive thing. The ditches are also protected, and we're going to go and look at them in a minute, by gun rooms that fire along the ditch. So that this bridge is covered by enfilading fire from the side. Yeah, that makes sense. The ditches and the sally port are useful not just for forming killing grounds to find the enemy and to gather them into places where you can kill them. They also act as linear obstacles, bridged linear obstacles in some respects, but also ways of getting your troops around in secret so that they can't be fired upon. So they're covered well in military terms. And that's what this is. This is a way of getting your troops in and out quietly into the ditch systems, because the ditch systems are quite extensive. Somebody was asking me yesterday about tunnel systems linking this bit of the fortifications to the citadel. There aren't any, and they're not needed, because we've got ditches. The ditches do that. They allow you to move troops around without them being spotted and without them being. Questions? No? Okay. Normally I get a question about block doors at this point, so I'll talk about block doors. We have just as I was talking about the fortifications developing, we have each bit of the fortifications would have been amended according to experience of use, I suppose. So we've got a block doorway there. That was the where the original winch was when this thing was put in the 1860s, I think 1863, and they found that the system wasn't sufficiently strong to do the job adequately. So a new system was put in down there. So there's a new winch room being put in down there. I think sometime in the 1880s, but don't quote me on that one. And that was accessed through a door that's blocked down there that comes from one of the thank you. It comes from one of the gun rooms, and it's now there's a door, there's a spiral staircase in there. It won't like that very often. Sorry, please do. The doors, these doors are, you'll see these similar doors at the castle. They have a slot in them so you can fire through it, because obviously if the enemy do get into the ditch, they'll try and break in through the doors that you've put there. They open outwards because it's battering down the door that opens inwards is much easier than battering down a door that opens outwards. And there would have been a grille across the top, I think, just as there was on the one at the bottom of the stairs. Questions? Okay.
Yeah, where did all the bricks come from?
Ooh, really hard question. The answer is, I'm going to be a historian and be really difficult there and say when, because for the first phase of building, there are bills of lading for bricks coming from Ipswich, and that's because our traditional a lot of buildings, there was a lot of cross-channel trade. A lot of bricks came across the channel for structures in Dover. So our normal supplier wasn't actually dealing with us at the time in terms of trade. Although that's an interesting one that I might extemporize around later. So the early ones weren't made in brickfields in Dover, but these ones were. There are brickfields all around Dover. The chalk is used for making lime and for doing the mortar and this sort of thing. Quite which bits of Dover each sets of bricks come from, you could probably actually sit down and work out, because generally, as bits of Dover were developed, so the brick earths were taken out as they were done. So in the 1860s, they were building Tower Hamlets. So they were building this and Tower Hamlets at the same time.
Okay.
So I bet they were exploiting the brick earths up at Tower Hamlets as part of this building. They wouldn't all come from the same place, but all across East Kent you'll find these brick earths. Yeah, would have been. Yeah, would have been. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a main road.
This is the last we go through. Didn't think that.
This is the literally road up there.
If you peer right over, you can see the actual winch itself. It's right below us.
Oh,
Lean right over.
yeah.
So this was classed as a road.
Oh my God. It's quite high though, isn't it?
It's just there.
Yes, yeah, definitely. Like, as you said, Tony, you've got the bascles, it's just they're headed underneath the project. Have you ever been and seen
Oh, there, I can just see it. There, yeah.
I could definitely go into the, they take me into one of the
There you
bascule chambers. Obviously, while the roads are there, they're hanging up the front of it. You wouldn't want to be in it when it closed.
Yeah.
It still works. We clear that bit out.
Wow.
So you can still crank it. It still works.
Does the actual the bridge still works then? Or this is just the crank?
No, just the crank.
Just the
I mean,
crank.
it's all roped up. And,
Wow.
but the actual crank still. We had that completely clear a few years ago. I wonder
I
what
was
happened.
talking to someone in the estates department at England Heritage the other day
Oh, yeah.
about access down into the ditches, and they were saying that reinstating the drawbridge was like a legitimate option that you could look forward. Wow! I mean,
Wow.
it wasn't viable money-wise, but it was, yeah, but it was like an actual option,
Stuff here is actually the first World War anti-submarine.
Well, there's down obviously those stairs, that goes over to other tunnels. It's a really complex.
Yes, that no downstairs indeed. It's lovely.
Quite chilly today, isn't it? Sorry.
A sheet of wrought up, so you can drop that across the gun loop when you're not using it, so the enemy can't fly back through it at you. Yeah. And on either side, you've got these musketry loops, sighting loops, so you can see actually is it worth lifting my finger, firing? Are the enemy actually there? Or you can pick off the survivors once you've fired at them with your carronade. Now, the carronade is a short, stubby gun designed at the Carronade factory in foundry in Scotland. It's not called carronade for any other reason. That's just where it came from. But they were designed for sea service, the Royal Navy, and they've gone out of use to a degree. They were designed as short-range smashing weapons for firing broadsides of ships that are close alongside. And the Royal Navy wasn't doing quite like that anymore. So they were putting different sorts of guns on ships. So those ship service guns became land service guns, and we used them for protecting forts. And the way that they were used in forts is essentially as enormous shotguns. So the ones here, there were at different periods, different types. But the longest period here, they were 18 pounds. So you've got 18 pounds of scrap metal being fired out front of it. So that's the shotgun, and it's using something called canister. Canister is a tin can essentially, full of ball bearings, and it bursts when you fire it out of the gun, and it produces a cone. That cone has a base of about 30 feet at 100 yards. That wall that's over there is about 100 yards away, and the ditch is 30 feet wide. So you come round the side of that ditch, and you get a face full of very hot metal travelling very fast. And then these guys in here pick you off with their muskets. All the guys along the top, because of course we're not dealing with just this bit of fortification. It's all integrated. Yeah. Firing one of those things makes you dead and also blinds you. It gets very smoky. So those are smoke vents in the roof. The other thing up there is a big solid ring for lifting the gun on and off its carriage. Yeah. These rooms were designed as multi-purpose. So they were designed so that you could utilise them as barracks in extremis, and that's why you've got a fireplace at the back. The fireplace is really very handy because it allows us to date, and he's giving an earliest date for this thing. Of course, we've got drawings of it. And the reason you can do that is because it's got two flues. It's got a flue at the front and a flue at the back. The flue at the back is for smoke and stuff to go up there. The flue at the front is for fresh air. And what that does is the warm air in the flue at the back heats the flue at the front and makes the air rise. So it actually pulls air through the structure and then puts it out of that vent up there to get warm, fresh air through the through the barrel. Now those things were introduced after the Crimean War because whilst we didn't understand what the means of transmission were, or what the thing was that was being transmitted, what was killing people, we did know that we were losing all the soldiers to disease. And we did know that if they were separated more and they were in fresh air, fewer would die. So there was a big report written in 1858-59 looking at barrack accommodation and how to make barracks healthy. One of the things that came out of that was the introduction of that type of finance. Making sense? Yes. Yeah. Also down here we have ready-use ammunition, which is in that room over there. That's an expense magazine, ammunition to be expended. That's why it's called expense magazine. You can always stop them because they will always have air bricks around them because you need to keep your powder dry. You've got a very big cavity wall that goes all the way. And then this room here is for the thing that you're firing. You always separate the propellant from the thing that you're actually firing in any of the batteries that you would see in the Victorian period. It wasn't set in aspic. Its use changed over time, and you'll see when you go through into the next gun room that that's been adapted. There's a door being knocked through the front. That was knocked through so that they could utilise the ditch as a firing range, and then in 1912 they put a telephone shield down here. So you'll see bits of telephone exchange stuff moving around on walls and things as you hear it. And then the next one along was clearly used as an office, but the thing to note there is that there's a gas seal there in the door. You've got a double door there, which is a gas seal, the second one. So do have a look at that as you're looking. And then along there, to grab that, you've got a musketry gallery. So this is an L-shaped thing. We're in one of these. Sorry, not everyone can see. If I go over here. Who's got a big torch? Where's the man with a big torch? Okay, well, whoever that is. So what we've got is we're in one of these gun rooms. We're in number 2. Yes, we're in number 2. This is no number 1 gun room. So we're in one of these, and then we've got a gallery here that allows you to fire on the front of this, because the safest place to be, if you've got a bloke in here firing at you, is against this wall, because he can't hit you. But these guys certainly can. And you can see there that use let through into that drawbridge bit. Yeah. So please do go and explore, have a look around. If you've got questions, I'm kicking around, I can hopefully answer them.
That's left for World War II because these are air vents and air brakes, and they can circulate from inside. That's where the current was, because we thought the Germans might drop gas on us. All the air vents are covered up with that material, anti-gas chemicals, you see. So hopefully it would have leached out anything nasty coming in from the atmosphere. There's some traces of it, because this was actually the operational command point for the ground shell barracks after it started getting shelled in August 14th. So in case of emergency, those getting shelled and relocate down into these tunnels. That's why the room at the end has been decorated up with some paint.
I always want, because I went into, I think it's Devil's Alley, Smoky, and I keep on seeing these, and I always want to know what they're for.
That's what the fabric's for.
Oh.
Yeah, anti-gas chemicals.
I don't know why they call it Devil's Alley, but I used to call it when I was a kid.
Let's do ghost cloaks.
Have you been to that?
I've been joking that that's quite interesting. but sort of yes, it is. But the thing that's
Well, that's nice and torch.
Yeah, I think this is where the office was, the Second World War, when the shop back started getting shelled, relocated the emergency command right down to the tunnels. It says this is really limited. It was partitioned, but unfortunately vandals smashed down walls. There was actually a big wall in that way. So this is what they had there, emergency. Report basis, it's not a proper planning group. World War II actions.
Yeah, we moved into barracks in Deal. We were the first in there when they sold it off. And Ben turned up here. I was in the police and I arrested 6 of them. Stripping the bloody barracks out there. Is this what you were expecting?
Yeah, I guess. I've been to quite a few. That's quite interesting. It is, definitely. I wonder where you put it.
Sorry.
It's like a rabbit's warren, isn't it? It's incredible.
It's bigger than I thought. It's just...
Huge. I don't think this is even half of it. It's like, just carries on.
Did you see that tunnel on the... just round the corner? That's
Yeah,
what I
no,
wanted.
I have.
Just there.
It just carries on, does it? And you're having that torch there. Just carries on.
It's amazing, isn't it? I just wonder where it leads you to.
Where does that go? Yeah,
I bet the Urban Explorers has done it. Right, here you go guys, I've done it all. The north entrance. I forgot to show you the pictures. I'll show you the pictures in a minute. There's the pictures. And there's the north entrance. And that's the Western Heights, and I'm going to show you the drawbridge, the road. This is what basically that would have been traffic lights, traffic thingies, what do you call them there. So I'll show you a drawbridge, an old drawbridge. You've probably seen it before on my videos, but this is an extra bit. So I'm not going down the slope today because it's quite slippery. So there's one of the drawbridges, and basically there's another one. There's a drawbridge there. You go around and there's another, not drawbridge, sorry, bridge. Another bridge. Another bridge. Then the far end there's basically a drawbridge. Just there. It's on the far end. It's too dangerous going over there because that is, it's rusty and it's had it. With that, this is the beginning of North Entrance. Bridge, broad drawbridge. I mean 2 bridges, then drawbridge. And there you go. Let's go back. And that is the last bit. It's quite messy around here. But there you go. There's the bit of the bridges to get to the North Entrance. Back in the day when, as I said, when there's a road. Yeah. Then that's it. This is Jack's in UK, so please like, share and subscribe. Bye.